Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's video. Now, this week's video is kind of on the back of the Lionsgate, which happened on Friday, 8/8. So we're here on Sunday now, Friday. So it was 2 days ago was the 8/8, but we're still kind of in the 8/8 portal because it's like kind of like 2 weeks before and 2 weeks afterwards. It's kind of like it's just the strongest on the 8/8. And so I wanted to put a video together to kind of go with the one that I put out on the A8 with the channeled message. And I wanted to basically do a video to tell you how I went through the 8/8 portal and what I personally worked on going forward and I wasn't planning on doing this video because these videos that I do, they take me about 8 to 10 hours, even though like you get them and they're only like an hour long. For me, all the work that's involved in going into doing these videos, it takes a lot. So usually I only have enough time to do one video a week. But because of this special portal, I decided that it was really deserving for me to come back on and spend a little bit more time in making another video. Because some things have been coming up for me for the last couple of weeks. So around what I needed to release. So it's kind of started a couple of weeks ago when I did a video where last week where I was telling you how like I had gotten run down, I got out of balance, and I had gotten sick. And after when I got done doing that video, I started clearing some information started coming through about what I needed to work on, what I needed to clear for myself going through for the portal for the Lionsgate portal. The For me, I was really needing to work on some things were coming up with releasing the class system and the hierarchy in my life and in humanity's life. Like, so what it started out was when I was sick, I started watching a series on Netflix called Pole Dark. I don't know if anybody else watched the series. I love to watch series. I like to delve into like something that has a lot of seasons in it. And so this one looked like it was pretty good, and there wasn't really anything else. I've watched everything else kind of thing. And so I started watching it. And it was back in like 1700s. Like it was back around the time right after the war in America where the revolution I don't know if it was the revolution, it was the independence when they become independent like after that war. I know there's a few wars in the United States. It's the one that 1776 one where it became the United States of America kind of thing. Well, anyways, it was kind of right around that time, and the main character, was Ross Poldark, and he had gone away to this war, and he had gotten, um, he came from like this affluent family where they had like one of these big manor house kind of things, and he owned a couple of mines, copper mines. And when he was off into the war, his father had passed away, and the mines, everything, like all of his property, everything kind of went down, and there wasn't really anything happening to it. It was kind of gone derelict. And but his uncle's house, this big manor house thing, was still there. And he had come back from the war, and he had to kind of basically start all over. And I was watching there was a lot of episodes, and it kind of some things were kind of coming to me about the class system and about like this like people like the way people lived back in like the 1700s. So this was like when I was kind of being shown what they lived like when they lived back in that time in the 1700s about like you couldn't marry people that you loved because they weren't of the right class or the right station. And this character, this Ross character, he actually married his kitchen maid or something. Yeah, she was a kitchen maid. And he ended up marrying her. And he got put, a lot of people kind of looked down upon him because he did that. And there was a lot of trouble that happened because of that. And I was watching the whole series. There was different people that were falling in love and weren't able to be married because of their station, basically. And there was definitely a class system and a hierarchy system. And so it all started when I was watching that, and then I started watching and when I got done watching that one, then I started watching Victoria on Netflix as well with Queen Victoria. And I started noticing the same types of things going on there with the class systems and the hierarchies and, um, all of the ways that people weren't allowed to kind of like live their lives the way they wanted to. Even the people that were like the Queen Victoria and her family, they had to stay and marry like people in their station and people that were only right for them. They couldn't just marry someone that they loved. It had to be like somebody that was like right for them. And I noticed that when the any kind of servants that were in the house, when when the servants when the servants were if they married, then they had to like quit their job basically. They weren't allowed to work there anymore because they were married. I don't know, it was just kind of crazy. And so that was kind of coming up. And then last, when was it? Couple of days ago. I think it was last week. Okay, so then last week, I had a dream at night where some things kind of happened in my dream, which were showing me that this still existed even in my childhood and growing up in my lifetime. My family, my mother she came from a higher class than my father. So my mother her family came from the Quakers, like they were the Pennsylvania Dutch. They came from Germany and Holland and that kind of direction. And I think some of them might have been English. I think there was some English there as well, but that's where my mother's family, she was a Methodist and um everything had to be kind of just so. And I remember looking at her, there was a write-up for her wedding when they were a wedding announcement. I don't know if it was engagement or I think it was her engagement announcement or her wedding announcement. I can't remember which one. I think it was after she had like a uh, bridal shower or something. And there was a whole page written up in the newspaper, in the local newspaper, and it had all of the things that she got as the gifts and all of the china and all the different things that she got, and it was kind of like all hoity-toity kind of thing. And my father, he came from a very lower class. First of all, he didn't grow up with any kind of religion. His grandmother came right from the Indian reservation, and he kind of came from more like his family did break the my he came from I had my grandmother and my grandfather got divorced when he was 18 years old, and they both remarried. But it was just different. He came from a lower class. And so my mother was always, I realized that my mother was always trying to keep to her station. Like she wanted to make it look like she was still the way she was when she was younger, but she didn't actually kind of fit in because now she was married to a lower class person. And so in a way, like we were just kind of, we didn't have a high income. We were what you would call middle class. And I remember her always saying to us that you're always going to have to work for what you want. You're going to have to make sure you get scholarships for school and all of this stuff. You have to work for what you have. And she always made all the pennies like spread out. And it always looked like we had more, but we didn't. And when we used to go to the like family every year they would have like a family Christmas for her, the Preston side of the family. My mom was a Preston. And when we would go to that side of the family, I always felt uncomfortable. I had this one aunt, my mother's sister, who had three daughters, and her daughters were the same ages as all my mom's kids. So my two older brothers, there was uh they had basically they had a child that kind of matched the same ages. And then there was one that was my age, but she was a year older than me. And the one that was my age, she always she was like hung around with the popular crowd. She always had this air about her that she was better, and she always acted like she was better than me. And I always felt very like uncomfortable whenever I would go to any of these like family events. I just couldn't be myself. I would just sit in the corner and just kind of just be a nice girl or whatever. And I remember my cousin when see I was the only girl in my family, and that my cousin, they had three girls. And so I would always get their hand-me-downs every time like they got rid of their clothes, I would get them. And my cousin, when I was in high school, my cousin had a lot of like really popular friends. I didn't really have popular friends, and I was always kind of like nervous in the hallway at school when these popular people would be kind of hanging around because they always thought that they were better than me kind of thing, and I was always made to feel like very uncomfortable. And when when I was walking between classes one day, I had one of her outfits on from that she had had the year before, and she made it known when I walked through her crowd and she was like, "Oh, look what Robin has on. She has my last year's leftovers, you know." And I remember feeling like really embarrassed, and so I was always kind of felt kind of weird about that. Uh, so basically, what happened in this dream was the same cousin, in the dream, she was having a baby, and we were at a baby shower. It was kind of weird because this she's not even like at the age where she could even have children at the moment, but in the dream she was having another child. And in the dream, they were sitting there talking about the properties that they just sold. Like they had all these like properties, and they were just like acting better than everybody else. And um they had this list at like a special store to buy all the presents, and it was like you felt like you had to buy something from that list. And anyways, just the conversation that was going on in the dream, I started feeling really uncomfortable like I did when I was younger. And I started feeling like kind of like I don't belong here in with these people. And see, I had gone away. I had gone away from this kind of thing. I hadn't lived in the United States for over 20 years now. So, and I remember when I went back, I had the same feeling as when I did when I went back in 2019. When I went back into, was it 2019? No, it was back when it would have been like when my son, 2007, 8, 9, 10. So it been about 2010. I had gone back because my father had he had like a near-death experience. He had his throat closed up with an infection. He was a diabetic and he I had got this infection in his throat and it got so bad that it closed his airway. And then they had to do they intubated him and they brought him back. And then after the next day they went in and they did this surgery where they scraped his throat. And I had to rush over to I didn't know if he was going to make it through the surgery. And so I kind of basically had to hop on a plane. But in order to get there, it was during a time when we had just gone through this recession, this really bad recession over here. And I didn't really have the money to actually go over there. And so three of my partner's siblings, they kind of put the money up for me to kind of go. So I went over there with not even, I think I had like 20 euros or $20 to keep me like if I needed to get anything while I was there. And it was kind of like I was really only going because my father might not make it. So that's why I was rushing over. And when I got over there, I kind of had this open-ended ticket, so I stayed for like a month, and he ended up being okay. And I went out to my I had to it was really sunny and stuff, so I ended up getting a pair of like really cheap sunglasses at Walmart or something. And and there was a party at my brother's house. Now my one brother, he's kind of like he kind of acts like he's like in this higher class. He's always been like that, like better than everybody, like better than me, better than everybody else. It's just always the way that he kind of still had that, like where he had a high class, he had a better education and he had a better job. He's a real estate broker and all this kind of stuff. And he's in the what do you call it? The in our town where I grew up, he's kind of like on the committee for the hospital committee thing and all these other things. And he goes out golfing and he just has this whole other kind of world. And he has like in-ground swimming pool and a nice house and uh beautiful, like everything is like all like a lot better than what I had. And also I had been going through a shock because we had the recession a lot worse here in Ireland than they did in the States. And so for me, I first had like a clash when I got to the airport and when I got into JFK because I saw everybody like eating at restaurants and stuff like that. And like we couldn't afford to eat at a restaurant at that stage. And it was kind of like even though you smelled the food, you were hungry. You didn't say that you were hungry because like knew you couldn't afford the food at the thing. And it really shocked me that people were like buying food and they were just spending money and and so that kind of happened. And then when I went to it was I think I don't want to say it wasn't a christening. It was not a christening. It was and wasn't confirmation. It was the one um my brother's Catholic. I'm not Catholic. What is it? Is it communion? Communion. It was my nephew's communion, I think. I think it was his communion. And they were having a party for it. And so I went to my brother's house and it was kind of like you have to take your shoes off at the door. And I had these sunglasses and I put them on top of my shoes at the door, like where everybody's shoes were, or whatever. And they were all running around, and there was like all this food, and everybody was like, I could see that the kids had no mass in what they had, like that. And then my nephew went over and stood and broke my glasses and just kind of laughed like it was funny. And for me, it wasn't actually very funny because I had no money to buy another pair of glasses while I was there. And I was thinking, oh God, like I've got another couple weeks to go and it's so sunny and I'm not going to be able to like it's going to be hard to be when I go outside, like it's going to be too bright for me. I'm not used to that, especially I've been living in Ireland where it's not sunny like that. And so it was really hard for my eyes, like to be there. And I was just kind of like, oh my gosh, like, and then I saw how they were acting, like this food was like nothing to them, and I was just kind of like, God, we don't even have this much food that's on the table for like the whole month, and they're having all this food, and it just hit me, and I had this like moment where I just kind of went upstairs and I cried, and I was just kind of like, I can't believe. Like I felt very uncomfortable being there. I felt like I was not in, I was above, like I wasn't in like I was too not good enough to be there at the house kind of thing. And so I had the same feeling when I was in the dream, the same feeling about like I wasn't good enough, I shouldn't like be here kind of thing. And so it kind of like brought that up again. And then I woke up from the dream and then I started thinking about the dream and I was like, why did I just dream that? That's really weird. And then I started contemplating it and I started thinking about how I don't think I'm good enough to do what I do because of that. I just don't think I'm in I guess I feel like I just kind of was shown that there's a lot of moments and a lot of things like when I published my book, I did it all self-publishing. I did everything myself, and it was like I couldn't afford to actually pay somebody to edit my book or format my book or like publish the book. So I had to kind of like do everything myself. And I always feel like maybe like I'm not good enough or like and then I was starting to it was starting to things were coming forward to me and memories about like when I started doing the Shine Your Light Network back in 2020 when we were in lockdown and I started interviewing people and bringing people on, and there was a lot of different people that were coming on, and they were like channeling and doing light language, and they were like they had all these like amazing gifts and everything, and I always felt like I wasn't good enough. And like there were these people that would come on. There was one person in particular that was kind of a multimillionaire, I think she was. And she had like her own publishing company and she had written like 10 books or something like this. And she always made me feel like I was just like nothing when I interviewed her. And then even after, when I would have like a talk with her afterwards, I felt really uncomfortable. Like I was like, whoa, I gotta watch myself here because I'm not as good as these people. And I would feel like I would have to dim my light and I never feel like I could fit in. And then I started working through this. I started working through this and I got to the point where I wrote the book, and it was actually really empowering for myself to actually learn how to edit and format and put the book together and do all the things that I had to do to get that book out. I feel more self-empowered by it. But at the same time, some things happened when I did publish the book because now I have a book there, but nobody's buying it because I have no skills on marketing and I don't feel like I am good enough to do that. And like I had done the Shine Your Light Network and then I went quiet for like a year and a half and I stopped doing that. So then I didn't have anybody following me. And so then I was trying to get myself out there again. And I was asking different people if I could come onto their podcast so that I could tell people about my book and like what I had started to create. And I was getting nowhere. People, it's kind of like I'm not, there was all these people have kind of gone past me now. And they have these big platforms now, and I promoted them when they were small, but now when I needed their help, I was either I wouldn't get an answer or I would be told that I could come on, but I would have to pay a fee. And some fees were 1,000 for one 60-minute episode. There was one that was a little bit better. It was $333 for a 60-minute episode. Uh, and if I wanted to go in person and do a 60-minute thing at a conference, it was $3,333. Um, and these are people that I promoted. These are people that I gave gifts to. These are people that I thought would be there to have my back. They didn't. They didn't have my back. And I felt again like I was lower than all these people, that I wasn't good enough. And I'm always like trying to like I channel these messages and do you know I have just as much of a connection as some of these other people. And I remember what happened to me uh when uh I had an experience with the oh what are they called? Lee Carroll and his entourage. I did actually get to interview Adirondda. What's her name? Marilyn Harper. I did have her. She was one of the last people that I interviewed on the Shine Your Light Network. And but I never really got anywhere with them because I my the day that she came on to go live, my computer broke. There was something going on and I couldn't go live with her. So I had to kind of record it and then put it on not live, which meant that it wasn't going to go onto her feed with all of her people. So no one ever actually saw the episode on any of the people. It didn't help me at all whatsoever. And then I was requesting to be on the what's the thing for Cry On, the Healing Wednesday show. And I remember when I applied to the Healing Wednesday shows, they have this form and they wanted your name and they wanted you they all they wanted information for. They didn't want to know what your healing method was or what you do. They didn't want to know anything about you. All they wanted was your website. They wanted to know how many people you had on all your social media platforms, how many people were following you, how many email subscribers do you have, and basically that was it. They just wanted to know how many and how much following I had. They didn't care about like what I could offer, like what I could give to them. They only cared about how many people followed me so that they could use all of my people to kind of like sell to. I think that's what it ended up being at the end of the day. And it was really like disheartening because I thought these people that were out there, they were helping people. They were helping people have a voice. These platforms that I asked to go on recently, they all say that they created them to give light workers and star seeds a voice. But yet, it seems like the only voices that are allowed to be heard or that are deemed good enough are the ones that can pay for it, pay to be heard, pay to be seen. And so what I want to say around that is like I have been then feeling like I'm not good enough to be in line with these people. Anybody that would give me an answer, this is what they came back with was that I would have to basically give them money and then they could deem that I was good enough. There was one person that I had interviewed over 3 or 4 times and promoted them and promoted their books and promoted all the things that they did. And she brought me onto this like scam thing, or I don't know if it was a scam thing, but it was like she was basically saying, "Oh, you can come and you can be part of my I think she had some kind of live stream thing that she was streaming a whole bunch of channelers and different people. And she said that I could come on to one of those. And it was all like really good until there was like a sales pitch at the end that said I had to pay 1,000 in order to do it. I was like, what is up with these people? Like, that they're not giving person a voice. They're only she didn't even want to when I went to the meeting. They didn't even want to know what I had to offer, what I could give. They just wanted to me to pay them and then I would be good enough. They didn't care what I was going to have to say or anything. And so this kind of thing had been going on. And so I was being shown that even I'm dimming my light. I'm not shining my light as bright as I possibly can because I feel like I'm not good enough along the spiritual community. These podcasts and everything that people are doing. I can't even I can't first of all, I can't afford to do any of the podcasts. And second of all, the ones that don't charge, they basically ghost me. They don't even like answer my email, or they say, oh, they're not taking anybody new. And there is one uh, show out there that a lot of people watch, and they tell everybody that they like to bring the newbies on, the small voices, and all that kind of shit. But actually, when you actually apply and actually like send an email, you don't hear anything back from them because they do send you a message back, but they tell you they're not taking any new people on at the moment. And so it's kind of like only who you know. You kind of have to rub noses and kiss ass in order to like be good enough or deem be good enough. I'm sorry I'm getting upset here, but this is kind of like the way that I'm feeling in order to like even be seen or even be heard in the spiritual community. So anybody out there who like subscribes to these podcast things or these like communities and shit like that, um, just know that they're only bringing on people who are either paying them in some way or it's not about what about their talking, what about their bringing to the it's not about what they're bringing. It's all like who they are and who they know and who they rub noses with. It's not, there's nothing, or who they pay, who pays, like whoever has like the best income level or whatever to be able to pay. And so that's basically how it goes. And so this kind of started coming up for me, and it kind of was being shown to me that I need to clear this wound because going into the new earth energy, this is not the way it's going to be. This is not the way the new earth consciousness is going to go. There will be no more hierarchy. The new earth vibrates on unity consciousness. In it, praise doesn't elevate one above the other. It becomes a symphony of mutual recognition. And so I guess what I want to kind of say in this video is I started realizing about this class system and I realized that I need to release this, not only for myself and my lineage, but also for humanity. And so yesterday I went to the swimming pool, and as I swam, I got more things that I was being shown about, like why I'm not shining my light as brightly, why I'm not moving forward. And I think I'm being shown all this stuff because we're in the Lionsgate portal and it's time, and this is what I need to release. I need to release this so that I can start walking the path of infinite possibilities, and so that I can do. And I was guided, like that morning before I went to the pool, I was shown in my cards when I was doing my journaling that the video, the channeled message that the transmission that I put up for the 8-8 portal, that wasn't just for humanity, that was for me. I needed to listen to it as well. And so I needed to, and in the message, it talks about releasing all that no longer serves you so that your soul can sing, so that your soul can start creating again, so that you can put yourself onto that infinite path of possibilities and start walking this 8-8, this infinity, this walking the path into the new earth energy. And so when I got out of the pool, I went to the steam room and I decided that I was going to release this. I was going to release it in all directions and all time. And so what I did was I started toning, and I started toning, and all of a sudden this tune came in, and it was a tune from a song that I knew from church when I was growing up. It was, and I'm going to sing it to you with, first I'll sing it to you for a minute with the words that the song says, but then I'm going to sing it to you with the words that the light language, the way it was coming through. And it says, then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. And it started coming through. And then I was like, Ayanakai, Ayanakai, Anaya, Ayanako, Ayanakayani. Ayanakai. And I started like this, it just started singing this song, and it was just started coming out of me. And I couldn't realize why I was singing this song. And then I thought to myself, I'm going to just sing this song and clear. And so I started singing the song, and I couldn't remember the verses because, it's been a long time since I went to church, and I couldn't remember the verses. So every time it came up to like the beginning of the verse, I would do it in light language and I'd start singing. And then I started, I said, okay, I'm going to go down through the chakras. And so I started at my crown and my third eye chakra, and I was letting go and releasing all of the veils of the ages and all of the not being able to have my own spiritual beliefs because of my station, because of my class, because of where, in all directions in time. So even in the past where I was like persecuted for my religious beliefs or for my spiritual beliefs, and even I just kind of cleared all of that as far as the hierarchy and the class system. And so then I cleared that. And then I started doing this thing during the part where it was, then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. So when I started singing that part of the song, I started doing this thing where I started sewing up all of the holes And so I was going down the line of all of the holes of all the lifetimes and all the times in my life now where I was feeling less than for my own belief systems where I wasn't able to do it. And then at the end, I would tie a knot into the where I just kind of sewed everything up and tie the knot. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to do this for all the chakras. And then I started going down. Then they did the throat chakra. And that was about all the times that my voice was silenced. I wasn't allowed to speak my truth, my inner, I wasn't allowed. I was like, there was different lifetimes. And so I cleared it for all around this class system, around the hierarchy, about not being able, because like there would be different times in different in my life where I wasn't allowed to speak what I really thought or anything like that because of where I was in my station. So I started clearing that. And then I started sewing up again. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. And I sew it up and then I would make a knot at the end of it. And then I kept doing it. I kept doing it for the heart chakra and for the same thing, not being able to live from the heart or live the way that my heart felt like it wanted to live because of this hierarchy, because of this class system. And sewed it all up and did the same thing for the what is it? The I'm just looking at because I'm going down the list. The solar plexus, um, my power reclaimed. I went through and I did the whole thing around the same thing. And then I did it for the sacral, the love beyond conditions. And then I did it for the roots. And when I did it for the roots, it was the foundation and it was um, around all of the foundations of all of my lifetimes and my ancestors and lineage. And then when I got all the way down through and all the chains were melting, I did the whole sewing thing. And then I did one big, huge knot for humanity. And then I took all of that and I brought light when I was going through. I just brought this liquid light down through. And then when I got back, when I brought this light back up through, out of my crown, up to my soul star chakra, to my infinite possibilities, like infinite self or whatever. And I did a kind of like a activation, I guess it would be called an activation, where wasn't sewing anything up this time. I didn't have to sew anything up, but it was basically bringing all of that in so that I was um, living my life without restrictions. And I'm reclaiming the right to praise, to exist, to shine, to be unbound. And so I restored myself, restored my wholeness, and then brought and then at the end, I saw this path just like when I was channeling the message with the infinity symbol. There was a path of the infinity symbol, and I saw that if I put myself onto this path and I start creating without restrictions, going forward, that I'd be putting my piece of the puzzle into the new path. And little by little, if I keep shining my light, if I keep doing what I came here to do and doing it in my own way without feeling restricted or not worthy because of this whole class system, that I would there would be other people that would they would come onto the path with me, and they would start walking the path with me, and that we would all be equal but still special, that kind of way. And so that's what I ended up doing. So that's what I did to help release everything so that I could move into the A8 portal and start being the without being living my life without these restrictions, without feeling like I'm less than anyone else, and that I have just enough right to take up space in this world as anybody else does. And I thought to myself, if you are feeling the same way that I felt, maybe this is coming up for other people. And so I decided that I would record this transmission that I did in the steam room to help me. And I figured if it helped me, it'll help other people. And so I am going to now share with you this, I don't know what you want to call it, energetic release. And and it's all around the releasing the class system and hierarchy and clearing this for the timeline so that when we go forward into this new earth, into the new golden age of miracles, that we do not have this class system anymore. And the more people that want to clear this, the better it is for our world. And so I am going to do the transmission. I'm going to sing it in English, but I've also got the word, it's going to go to the theme, How Great Thou Art. But I am going to, I modified the verses to go with this energetic procedure. And so every time I'm going to do this, I'm going to record it now, but uh, I think I might, when I put this up, you might not actually see my face in here. And so you can do the same thing whenever we get to the chorus. So whatever we're working on, the crown chakra or the throat chakra or the heart chakra, whenever I get to that one, we'll sing. I'll sing through what we're releasing. And then when we get to the chorus, that's when we start doing the sewing up the holes. So you can do the same thing. And so it's basically sewing up the holes in the energy field. So basically you're kind of like sewing one thing, sewing another. That's how it goes. And you go down the line, sewing up these holes, sewing up these holes until the end of the chorus. And then you tie a big knot at the end. And I don't know. Let me know what you think of it. Did you enjoy it? Did it help you? And so that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to start doing this now. And at the end, I'm just going to, it'll be the end of the video. So I'm going to say goodbye to you now and send you off with so much love and light. And we'll see you next Sunday when I put the next video up of whatever will be in that video. So here we go. So we're going to start by bringing golden light down from the divine golden light, golden liquid light. And we're going to start with this golden light starting to go down in through our chakras. So as I sing, as I go through this, you will imagine that this liquid light is kind of going down through. So right now we're going into the crown and we're going to release the class systems and hierarchies in the soul's sight restored. So in our sight, our third eye, our spiritual consciousness. So, oh Lord my God, I lift the veil of ages and let the gold light pour in through my crown. Through lifetimes past, I dared not speak of angels. Now I reclaim my truth, my sacred sound. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Move down to the throat. You gave me voice, yet I was taught to silence, to bow to rules that dimmed my inner flame. Now as I sing, the thread becomes a promise to speak with love and never hide in shame. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. And now we move down to the heart chakra. I got my words here so I can make sure that I do the words exactly right. So we move down to the heart chakra, the love remembered. So you imagine the liquid light is going down and now it's down in through the heart chakra. Through every life, I hid my heart's true longing, afraid to love, where class lines drew a wall. But now I feel divine love ever flowing. I stitch the tear and choose to give my all. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then we move to the solar plexus, power reclaimed. I dimmed my spark to fit within the order, to play the part the system said was mine. But now I rise beyond the roles they offered, a sovereign flame ignited by design. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then we move on to the sacral chakra, love beyond conditions. I'm just going to move my paper so that I make sure that I do it right. Okay. They told me love was something to be rationed, a privilege earned by name or place or skin. But I recall a love beyond division, and so I sow this wound and rise again. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. And then we move to the root, the foundations renewed. And remember, this goes for all of your roots and all of your ancestor lineage into humanity as well. So when we sew this one up, it's all going through the ancestral line and all the lifetimes before and all for all of humanity so that we can start all over again without this class system. I plant new roots where old beliefs once buried, the lie that worth belongs to chosen few. Through blood and bone, ancestral chains are melting, and in their place the earth begins anew. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. And we'll do one big, huge tie up for humanity and tie the tie. And now we let the liquid golden light come from our roots and go all the way up. Allow it to come all the way up, out, and connect out of your crown in through up into your soul star chakras for your infinite becoming. I raise the light through every healed dimension and meet my soul beyond the bounds of time. The path ahead now shimmers with creation. Infinity is where I place my sign. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. And now see yourself stepping onto the path of infinite possibilities and stepping onto the path, allowing yourself to live your life without this restriction of class, system, and hierarchy. And know that when you step onto this path and you put your jigsaw piece into this path, into the board of life, into the new earth, as you put your piece down, others will follow and start to step onto the path, and they will walk alongside of you. For we are all multi-dimensional beings of light. We are here to create our reality. It is time to create a world where we are all one and we were all equal and we all have just as much right to take up space as anyone else. So that is the transmission and the activation. And I think that what I will do is I will put the lyrics of this song into the description. I will probably only put the verses and then the chorus once. And so you always repeat with the chorus when you're doing the sewing up. Use the words for then sings my soul, my Savior God to me, how of thee, how great thou art. That part is just a repeat. So there's no sense, because there's only a certain amount of characters that I can put in the description of this video. And so I will probably only just put the verses, and then you would know after every verse you sing the chorus, which brings you where you start sewing up, when you start sewing up the it's kind of like multi-temporal soul mending, repairing the torn veil between timelines where where your light was dimmed, silenced, and made conditional on external systems. So that's what we're tying up. That's what the holes that we're sewing up. So I hope you found this to help, and we'll see you next time. Sending you so much love and so much light.